Hello, and welcome back to the Masters mod. Last time we took down the Spira, the Crawler, and Seymour. If you missed that, you might want to check it out. It's one of the episodes, or it's the only episode so far, that's just been straight bosses, so if you don't like the random encounter fluff, then that's the episode for you. But I have to fight my way out of Makalania now. It just so happens that all of the fights that I got along the road with the Guado happen to be this one combination of Flan, Turtle, and Guado. Now, it's random whether you get this or some other configuration, but this is kind of good for me because, yeah, they don't do a lot of damage, but it's also very annoying because if we can't burst them down, then the Guado and the Flan will just heal themselves forever. So the strategy is pretty simple. You take out the turtle, or at least you leave it blind for as long as you can. If you end up leaving Orin on the field, then it turns out that he'll get targeted by the turtles quite a lot. So if he has his counter-strike weapon on, then he'll probably take it out in his own. You can bring in Orin either to threaten the Flan or the Guado, and then they won't heal each other. You blitz one of them down, and then you can leave then the other one all alone is pretty easy to deal with. At least for me now that I gave Waka his MP Sphere, so now I don't have to keep him just for emergencies. I can use him a lot more normally now. So silencing the Flans will get rid of their counter attack too, so remember that for whenever you're in a bind. And then we have the encounter with the double eyes. Now the big eyes, they got a bit of a buff. Now just casting life or throwing a Phoenix down on them will only take out half of their HP, so that's great. We have Riku, so if you do have a life with Yuna, then you can copycat with Riku. And then you also have Alchemy with Waka, which you can't quite one-shot it, but then you can follow up with either Lulu or Riku, and they should be able to finish it off. Then the turtles, really no big deal, as long as there's nothing guarding, and unlike Seymour's Guado, these guys don't guard. Then the last encounter on the road is just priorities and mitigation. So, silence the Flan, blind the wolf, and then take out the eye. In reverse order, actually. Now it's time to fight the Wendigo. This is a really fun fight. Definitely, I would recommend that you go in blind because this has its own special quirk. Now, as much as I love this fight, my strategy is actually just making it so that the quirkiness of the fight gets completely cut out. But for me in particular, the overdrive setup is super important in the fact that Yuna has Comrade and Titus has Stoic. I put Riku on Warrior, or I put Riku and Lulu on Warrior, but it turns out that when you use with Riku her items, they don't actually count as the Warrior overdrive. So I should have put her on Ally because she has a lot of turns, but it worked out, so. Now, I treat this fight a lot like I did with the first Seymour fight, even though in that case the Guado tanked for Seymour, and now the Wendigo tanks for the Guado. It really doesn't matter if you hit all three of them at the same time. The Wendigo will always Mighty Guard on its first turn, so I'm using that time to provoke one of the Guado with Titus, and then I will then provoke the Wendigo before it gets its actual attack off. Provoking the Guado is basically just so that they waste some extremities. Then there's a little bit of weapon finagling with Yuna, where I give her the half MP to cast Auto Life on Titus, and then I switch it to the booster, so that way she gets a lot of overdrive when Titus gets knocked out. And then Riku is there for some quick turns, make sure that there aren't too many bad statuses going around. But the way that this is set up is now I have a Yuna overdrive to summon Val 4 and just take out the Guado, and then I have Titus, who can entrust his overdrive to Yuna to bring out Ixion, so he can arrow spark away all of the buffs. Now, I highly do recommend taking out the Guado with a summon, because they cast Sloga upon death, which is a very bad thing to deal with right now, because this fight is essentially on a countdown. Now, once it gets 5 cheers, the funny thing about this is the entire party gets completely berserk, and then they just wallop on each other. And unless you're specifically set up for it, the Wendigo is gonna win. Now, this is especially true if the Guado had a lot of turns to give a lot of reflex and a lot of aims up on it. So a lot of your physical attacks are just gonna miss, unless if you have walk in there to aim yourselves up to. But my strategy doesn't actually need that, because item uses and magic will never miss. But another caveat to this timer is that it's either when the Wendigo cheers up 5 times, or when it drops below 30,000 HP. So when you get really close to that, you really can't do any more damage, or else you'll start the all-out blitz. Not only that, but the Wendigo is immune to slow. So it's like, okay, how do you get around the counter if you don't want to go into the brawl? And my answer to that is slowing Orin and threatening, after making sure that both Lulu and Riku are hasted. Now, this strategy is very bomb core heavy, but it is just so satisfying to see like a million turns before the Wendigo has a move. If you don't want to do it my way, there was another strategy that I saw in customizing Dark Strike on somebody, so that way when you have the all-out brawl, then the blindness will actually stack. You just have to make sure that Waka has aimed up the party quite a bit to counter all of the reflexes. Then after the round of level ups, the main pickups to note are that Lulu gets Demi, which is very good for a lot of future bosses to come. And then also Yuna gets Dispel. So now we don't have to summon Ixion every time that somebody gets buffed up. Then remember that Yuna leaves the party pretty soon. So if you don't already have a backup healer, then definitely make sure to use the white magic spear that you just picked up to give somebody cure. I gave mine to Khimari because he has Lancet, so he can kind of restore some of his MP. But you can survive on just using potions. But yeah, just remember, Yuna's gonna be gone soon. And once we pick up the Albed potions, now we have some of the more unique customizations in this mod. Now with this one, you have Sense Preserver, which will make it so that you can't get blinded or silenced. Now this is great for Titus specifically, or Titus right now. And then again, since Waka has some good MP now, I'm going to give him some elemental coverage, because now he's very useful in the fights to come. Now surprisingly, as long as you have the MP to spare, the big solo encounters are kind of the easiest to deal with in this area right now. The Zoo will petrify you, but if you have the Dark Buster on, at least then you'll not have to worry about him getting hit. And there's just a whole lot of ways to deal good ice damage.
Isn't there an easier way? No complaining.
The double Machina aren't too bad either. Riku doesn't have her insta-kill with Steel anymore, so that's a little bit of a bummer. Two Lulu Thunderas and anybody, and Riku's just fast lightning marbles can clean them up pretty good.
That's how it's done.
Then when the Alaskan Bullworm comes in, essentially you can use a lot of setup, because if you read the description, it'll say after 3 hits it'll counter with like Pentafire. So yeah, that's nothing to sneeze at. So what I like to do is haste my damage dealers, then slow Orin, threaten with Orin, and then you don't have to worry about the counters because you threaten. Now the encounter with the Double Bird and Wolf combo is kind of scary. Luckily the birds don't have the best accuracy, so if Lulu's on the front line, odds are she's going to dodge, but you really don't want to rely on that. But if you if you get Waka to blind one of the birds, and then you get Khimari to get the wolf, hopefully he hits. Then you really only have to worry about one bird, which is maybe like 800 damage. So you can probably tank that if you heal up between fights. But this one can be kind of scary.
You sure this is the way? I think.
Now the real challenge of this area is the combo of the Drake, Wolf, and Bird. And it just so happens to be the one that I got the most along my trip. Now, the Drake will have constant sentinel, so you can't just physically target the bird or the wolf, but you really want to physically target the bird or the wolf so that way they get blinded. We do have access to smoke bombs, so if you get ambushed, then bring in Riku for that, so that way you can survive the initial onslaught. But the two ways is you need to get the Drake out of the way, so you can either threaten him with Orin or you can put him to sleep. That way you can blind the other two and then deal with them. But it's pretty rough. So with this is definitely the one that I spend my overdrives on. Now one trick that you can use is just make sure that Orin survives. But if he does have guard up and the birds attack him 3 times, then he'll actually counterattack all 3 times. So that's one way that maybe you get lucky and you take out a bird, but you really do want them to be blinded because Orin's HP and defense are good, but they're not good enough to take 3 or 6 attacks all in a row. Now the Cactuar fight is a good lesson. Sometimes it's better to do nothing than to just throw out a random attack. So make sure that you're ready for its counterattack. Waka can do good damage, but he needs to aim a couple times to make sure that he gets the hit. And then Riku is really the only other person who can damage because his magic resistance is really high. Then I had this encounter once with a triple wolf and chest. Now this one is super scary because I got ambushed too. So this is why you have overdrives in the pocket, because if you don't, then you're gonna have a real rough time. Amongst all the chests that you find in the desert are 2 fortune spheres. Now I'm going to use one on Khimari now because I have him on Titus's path. And then once he gets that, I can pick up haste with him too. So that's great. I kind of want to transition Titus into more of the magic guy because of his Brotherhood having the half MP cost. And then Khimari can pick up the slack with a lot more damage. Then in the second half of the desert, you can get the big Machina with the double. Now, these ones, I treat them kind of the same as a double, where I want to take the damage dealing ones out first with magic and items, because even though he's on Sentinel, you can't really guard against magic and items. Then you can leave him for last. Now Lulu does have very good evasion, and I got some really lucky dodges, so maybe don't go quite as hard as I did on that, but it is something that you can gamble on. Then we have the final fights in these Sandragoras. Now they can be really scary because of their confusion, and the bar at the top does not mess around, or it does not lie when it says that they are very smart. So you really need to mitigate them with sleep. Remember to use Waka, or if you haven't used the MP Sphere on Waka, then I have no idea how you get through this. But you get Waka with putting them to sleep, and Orin threatening them, and then also if you make them slow, then just make sure that just don't give them the chance to take you out. But that's it for today. Don't forget to get all the chests because there's some really good stuff in there. And then also, if you can search Keiku's body for a couple extra high potions. He won't be needing them, so yeah, yikes. But, yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Hope that you continue in the quest to take down Pennance. Now, yeah, if you liked the video, I like your face. Bye-bye.